In today's episode of I Could Talk to You All Day, we are going to talk about the value of taking a break. Deep breaths, everybody. We're going to talk about rest. We'll talk about what we can decide to take breaks from, how to get our heads around taking a break, how taking breaks has served both of us, including our break from this podcast, and some really practical things you can do to start thinking about taking a break. I Could Talk to You All Day is a podcast about what it means to be a leader while also being human. I'm Lauren Lefkowitz.
And I'm John Spears, and we coach executives and leaders just like you about shifting from surviving at work and home to thriving in the life you've always wanted.
We're so glad you're here.
Let's get the conversation started.
John Spears.
Hey, Lauren.
We're back.
We're back. I am so glad to be back with you in this context. We have lots of other catch-ups that we do in talks and check-ins, but to be here recording again, season 2.
I can't believe we have a whole season 1 behind us.
I know. I feel really accomplished. This is our second season. And how many episodes were in season 1?
Like a
85.
good 30 something over a year and a half time period where we forgot that seasons are allowed to end.
And then we took this pretty long break. Lots of stuff was happening in our lives and we needed a break. And now we're back. And I'm super pumped to be back with you talking about leadership and doing that while we're human and navigating all that stuff.
Amazing. We both took some really good time to be human during our breaks.
Yes.
And we took the break really deliberately from the podcast. We didn't know where to stop and when to end our first season and all of that. But we were both getting into some stuff near the end of last year, good and bad. And we had plans to record through the end of the year. And we realized in the fall that we had hit a point where we both really, really were ready for a break.
Yeah.
And for me, it was where I saw it was that we were having trouble scheduling to record the podcast. And it felt like to me when both of us were so in love with this podcast and also neither of us could make it a priority, that we both saw that we were coming to this end. And I remember on our last recording, we came on, and I can't remember which one of us said it, but one of us said, I think this should be our last episode. And the other one of us was like, yeah, I'm so glad you said that. So we were really so in sync on it.
I love how you said we were getting into some stuff together, or not together, but like at the same time. And it's kind of like when you say that tastes interesting, you're kind of like, there was some stuff. There was like some like stuff, and then there was like some stuff, and there were some like amazing opportunities that we were both engaged in. And I think the sort of the stuff, I mean, the stuff is always there. But like the stuff has simmered down a little bit, and there's a new opportunity, new opening that at least I have after leaving my job to do coaching full time, for you to, the work that you're doing. It's just really, the timing is really aligned right now. And I'm super excited to take all the things that we learned from season 1 and put them into season 2, into 3, into 5, into 20, however long this goes. And I think the one thing that I think we both, I'll just speak for myself, is, we're both really successful leaders and executives, and we're also doing things for the first time, and we're new at a lot of things. And so instead of like beating myself personally up for taking so long to get back at it, or going 30 episodes or however many episodes in our first season, I love the reframe of this is practice. And so, this is something we talk about so much together, but also in coaching. I talk a lot about this with my clients who are doing things for the very first time and are beating themselves up for not being perfect or amazing. Like, we're practicing. And when you take that, like, we're practicing point of view or mindset, like so much stuff opens up to us. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to perform. We don't have to people please. We can just be in the world and be ourselves in the world and like see what happens with it.
Yeah, amazing. And I think you have just planned 2 episodes for us
Mm,
in season 2, one being new at
mm,
something, being a beginner at something,
love it.
and 2 being in practice. So here you have it. Look at us live figuring out what season 2 is going to look like. But today we're actually going to talk about the value of the break.
Mm,
And I think for both of us, we had some valuable insights in being on break and not being on break just in the sense of we're not recording now. When are we going to record again? Why aren't we recording? What should we be doing in the interim? But really, genuinely taking a break.
yeah.
So, what value did you get, John, from stepping outside of the podcast for a while, stepping outside of recording and us editing and marketing and all of that to really be on a break from the podcast?
I think that's a great question. And I think outside of relationships, because there's like the whole taking your break in a relationship sort of thing. I think in life and as leaders, we often don't give ourselves permission to take a break. I don't know about you, but I have this kind of relationship with productivity and with just like putting stuff out there and being productive and sort of capitalism and always feeling like I need to add value to everything. It's really, really hard for me to take a break. And so it's not something that I've been able to do a lot. I mean, you hear this all the time from people who have a hard time really shutting down when they're on vacation. Like that's a break. They just can't do it. It takes, several days or even sometimes a week or so to like get out of that space. And I think for me, I gained so much from taking the break. It allowed me to have new appreciation and value for the work that we do together, Lauren, for creating this together. It became something that we were just doing on a schedule and just sort of like in it. And once we stopped doing it, it made me really value and love and appreciate the opportunity that we have together. It also allowed me to integrate a lot of the stuff that we were talking about into my life. We also talk a lot about this in coaching is like there's awareness and then there's like putting that awareness into action in our lives, which we call integration. And so I was really able to create some more space in my life to integrate the things that I was learning. And I think the last is sometimes there's just value in rest and in not doing anything or sort of giving something up for a bit. And so I think I just feel so much more rejuvenated and like in it than I did before because I was able to free up some mental space and some capacity where I was like tapped out at like 110% every day. And when you do that for a long time, this is a recipe for burnout. It's a recipe to like not be fresh, to kind of get stale. And so I think those are some of the things that I really got out of taking a little bit of a break. How about you?
For me, I think the biggest value has been the appreciation for this segment of our relationship
Mhm.
that we decided to take a break before either of us felt so burned out on the podcast. I don't think either of us felt burned out. I think we felt ready for a break, but we didn't get to that point. And so often when I do things in life, I am like running myself into the ground to
Yeah.
prove I can do it and I can keep with it and I can carry on. And like we get tired. We
Mhm.
do better with breaks, with rest. And we came back to this both so excited to be in it again and like right back into the rhythm. So I think the other value I got was that taking a break didn't make me a beginner again. It didn't make me feel like, oh, I don't remember how to do this. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know how to have a conversation with you. That would be pretty funny though if we came in all awkward and stunted and didn't know how to do this. Um, but I came in really like so excited to start up again because I didn't have any of that hangover from being burned out. So I think for us, we took a break at exactly the right time for us. And now we get to come back like so freaking excited to be in it again.
As we were talking, I thought of this question, and really was curious your take on this. Why do you think people are so resistant to taking a break, to getting some rest, to kind of reevaluating things, instead of being on autopilot every day on the stuff that they've already committed to or are doing?
Well, I will speak for people
For
or
all
a
people.
friend of mine. Yeah. No, I can only speak for myself here, but I think that people will relate to this or have their own sort of similar reasons. We feel compelled to do more. I always feel compelled to do more, to finish what I've started. Like my stick-to-itiveness is way too sticky in a lot of situations. I always worry as a born people pleaser that I'm going to be disappointing people if I stop doing something. Since I've started my business, I have stopped and started a few different things. And it turns out that when I'm showing up, however I show up, people are like, cool, Lauren's here, which is a nice feeling because you don't want people to be like, ah, crap, Lauren's here again. But that's never the case. I can't even imagine. But when I have started things, like there was a point in time where I was doing a weekly networking call. There was a point in time when I was doing webinars, and I probably will start doing webinars again. And when they weren't serving my client base or my audience base the way that I wanted them to, instead of pressing on, I stopped. Because what I realized, and I think I'm going a little bit off the question you asked of what, I don't even remember your question.
Why do you think people are so resistant to taking a break?
Thank
or
you.
so resistant to like putting pause on something or stopping doing something? What do you think is the driving? Again, there's probably lots of things, but like, what are some of your thoughts around that?
Thank you. I think when we're resistant and when we don't decide to take that break, it's because we're not sure what else is out there. We don't want to disappoint people. We don't want people to be mad at us, because mad and disappointed are two separate things that can coexist, but two separate fears. And we want to keep serving people the way we serve them, and serving lives and responsibilities the way that we serve them. So those are my thoughts on why we resist. What about you? What do you think?
I think one of the real driving factors for me in not taking a break, getting rest, whatever, is to prove that I'm worthy, to prove that I'm good enough, to be seen as someone who's valuable. And in my brain, you don't want to go in there, but in my brain, it's to like keep on showing up. And obviously there's some really good things about that. But I think the moment I shift doing something out of a place of love and like wanting to like share my experience and sort of, I guess the simplest way is out of love, the moment that shifts from out of that place to I need to prove something, that's the moment I know I need to sort of do something's not right, that I need to sort of figure out and get really curious as to why. And it's normally because I'm not feeling worthy and I need to prove. There's a sort of this like proving, I need to show, I need to perform, I need to get an applause, I need to get some external validation, I need to outsource that approval. That's the minute sort of I know I need to take a break because I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons. And that is going to completely drain my energy. If I'm looking for external validation in the work that I do, yeah, I mean, it's really nice, right? It's amazing to someone to be, oh, great job. I just did a training this week with some people and it got really great reviews and feedback. And I was like, that feels really nice. but that wasn't why I was doing it. And it didn't change how I felt about the training itself, which is like really also a really, that's probably another conversation for us to have, but it's really, yeah.
So sometimes we take a break from a thing, and all we do is think about the thing, which may be in part why people don't take breaks. We just answered that question.
Mhm.
But also in asking this question, I'm realizing that's probably part of it. Like I remember so many times during my corporate career when I took a vacation, which could have been a break, and checked in on my email all the time and answered questions and took a couple of conference calls that ended up being followed up by other one-on-one meetings. So I think there's sometimes a fear that if we take a break, it's all we'll think about anyway, so we may as well just keep doing it.
Mhm.
When you take a break from something, when you decide it's time to take a break from something, and you really want that full separation, how do you prepare yourself for taking a break? And how do you catch yourself when your brain turns right to the thing you're taking a break from?
Mm. Some good questions. I think to answer the first question, how do I prepare myself for a break? I, when I take a break from something or when I put a pause on something, I need to be really intentional about it because if I'm not, and I'm not really sure on my why for taking a break or my what for taking a break, I can easily, for those of you who know me, I can ruminate like the F out of it. Like I can just sort of like not stop and tell myself lots of stories about it. And so if I'm not really clear, like this whole like, oh, I'm just gonna take a break, that doesn't work for me because there's a reason I want to take a break and I'm not fully kind of like aligned with it or I have a difficult relationship with it or whatever. And so number one, to answer that, I think I prepare by being super intentional and by making a choice to take a break. Um, for those of you who also know me, I love pickleball. I play pickleball all the time. I like play several times a week. And there are definitely days where I'm like, I'm gonna take a break from this because I'm just sucking and blah blah blah. And like that doesn't work. It's because I have a bad relationship with losing, frankly. Um, so I mean, I could be a sore loser sometimes. Which is something I need to work on. And so I think the intentionality piece is super, super important and getting very clear as to why I'm taking a break, the purpose of the break, and like even setting like a time frame for taking a break. I think for me, having an open-ended sort of break on something doesn't really work, particularly if I want to come back to it. And so setting something that's like realistic and that allows me to like revisit it in a certain amount of time and make a choice at that point. Am I ready to come back to it? Do I need some more time? Whatever. I think that's super helpful. And then the second question was,
When you're taking that break
mhm,
and your brain creeps in anyway and is like,
yeah.
hey, it's time to get back to that thing. How do you recenter yourself so that you're not obsessing about the break you're taking from the thing you're trying to take a break from?
Wow, you totally know my mind so well. I don't know. I think for me, it's really depends on the situation, right? Sometimes I'm taking a break from something because I become a little obsessed with it. Or sometimes I need to take a break from something because I need to create some space for something new in my life. And I think, when I think about that scenario, it comes back to some of the kind of fundamental practices in my life that keep me grounded. So like meditation, journaling, being active, those sorts of things help me burn off like the ruminating in my mind, which is so present. It's very easy for me to go there. And so those are some of the things I do when that happens. And then also sort of going back to my why is I found that when things become very urgent in my life, that is a sign that I need to sort of take a step back and make a shift mentally about my relationship with that thing. And so those are some of the kind of tools that I use to help me reevaluate it and create some space.
I love that.
Mm.
When I find that I'm thinking about a thing I was doing while I'm on a break from it, it's usually because I didn't get complete. I'm using a very coachy term, which I'll explain in a second, but
Totally.
because I didn't get complete on taking the break. So getting complete, which is probably another topic, upcoming in this season on I could talk to you all day.
We're just getting our set list.
It's just our planning session. Welcome into the real insider stuff. But getting complete is really like, I think what we call closure, right? And we think about that in respect to most often, I think, romantic relationships, sometimes friendships, sometimes family relationships, that if we don't close the book and really say like, okay, I'm done with this. I've made this decision, or this decision has been made for me and I have to come to a close on it, that we don't always go through that process of getting to self-understanding, decision-making, choosing, all of that kind of stuff. And so I think for me, if I have gotten myself to the point where I'm on a break for something, and especially when I feel like it came from defeat, that my MO is to think about it all of the time in like, this is what I should have done. I could have done it this way. And when I am doing that, I have to reach out for support because the inside of my head is too crowded with all of the internal naysayers telling me I did it wrong. I shouldn't have done it then or that way, or I could have done better. And so then I call on you, frankly, or my coach or my therapist, right? Depending on what it is. And sometimes all three, and sometimes even more than the three, to really be able to get to, why do I not feel like I am complete on this decision? And sometimes it's really coming to terms with like, I didn't choose it. It happened to me.
Yeah.
And so I have to understand it happened to me and I can decide what's next from here. Or I did choose it, but I didn't choose it from a place of empowerment. I chose it from what felt like weakness or felt like defeat. And sometimes just talking that through is really helpful. And I remember a conversation with my coach a couple months ago where I was talking about one of the breaks I was taking this year, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I was talking about one of the breaks I took this year and saying like, I feel like I should get back to it. I feel like I should get back to it. And then it came to, I'm actually okay that I took a break.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot that my narrative doesn't have to be that I failed at it. And when I can talk it through and when I can come around to, how is this break serving me? What do I want to fill that time with instead? Or what am I filling that time with instead? And reminding myself what my resources are when I get stuck in my own head.
Yeah. I have another topic for the queue, and that's support. I don't think we've talked about this before. I mean, we
No,
talked
we
about it
haven't.
a lot. You know what? You need support. I think, like you, I have a coach, I have a therapist, I have friends, and all of us are different and need varying levels of support. I am one of those people who need a lot of support. And I wasn't always like that because, well, actually, no, I've always needed support, but I never really allowed myself to have it. And I think support, particularly when you're a CEO in the C-suite, when you're a leader, when you have a lot of stuff going on in your life, it just lessens the burden for you to, oftentimes we carry all this stuff alone. We're lonely sometimes. It's, people say it's lonely at the top. I mean, that may or may not be true depending on your relationship with it. But I think it was lonely for me when I did not have support. The minute I had support, the minute I had a coach and a therapist and friends and family, and I opened up in a way to rely on other people for help and support, it totally changed my life. So I love that you brought that up because I think it's such a valuable component in the formula for change and transformation in our lives.
Yes. What is something, John, that you have taken a break from in the last little while that was, besides the podcast, a deliberate decision for you to take a break? And how did it serve you?
The one thing that comes to my mind, and this isn't necessarily something that I just started doing, but it was taking a break from alcohol. Um, not drinking socially, I think has really served me. And for me, it was just a game changer. It just wasn't serving me anymore. I remember, I think this was for my 35th birthday. I didn't drink for the entire year. That was like the one of the things that I was going to do for my birthday. And ever since then, my ability to metabolize alcohol is like gone down the drain. And so, if I have like a drink, I'll just really feel it. And I just don't personally like that feeling anymore of like feeling groggy. I'm already freaking emotional. So like you add alcohol in it. It's like ask my husband. It gets it can get real spicy real fast. And so I just realized like it's just not worth it for me, to drink. And so I think for me, it's really served me in a way because I know kind of what's going to happen to my body. I know how I'm going to feel. And I think I don't want to feel groggy the next day. I don't want my sleep to be interrupted. I really want to be super like clear-headed. And so I think for me, that's one of the things that I like decided to take a break on. And it served me in really allowing me to like show up the way I want to show up and to not have the sort of negative consequences that I found in my life. How about you?
I took a break from marketing my business
Hmm.
for several months, and I love my business. Like, I feel so lucky and like, yeah, hard work, decision making, all of that. I feel so lucky that I get to make a living being a coach.
Mhm.
And I got really tired of seeing me say, pick me. And I had some other stuff going on. You and I both did during this time period.
Some stuff,
And
just some stuff.
just stuff. We
In
will
quote,
talk about stuff during
it
another
was
episode.
interesting.
Interesting time for all of us. But what I realized was I was putting the energy of the things that I had to take care of against the energy of marketing my business. And I was starting to get agitated by marketing my business, which is not how I want to feel.
Yeah.
So I went into just intuitively posting, sending emails about whatever topic I felt good about without having in mind what's the strategy behind this? Who does this serve? Is this a call to action to come and work with me? Is this just credibility building? What's the meaning of all of this? And what I realized is I actually really do like marketing my business when it is me talking to my audience about what they deserve.
Mhm.
And it shifted my focus back to my audience and away from what should I say about me?
Right.
And now that I'm easing my way back into marketing my business, I'm feeling really positive about marketing the opportunity for executive coaching instead of how do I sell people on me?
Right. I
And
love that.
that has felt really good.
That's such a powerful reframe of the way to think about that.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
And I couldn't have done it without the break.
Yeah.
Right. Like even when I wasn't talking about it, and it took me a while to get to, I'm choosing this and not, I'm burned out on this. I don't feel like doing it. I don't like what I'm writing, all of that kind of stuff, which I worked through with my coach. Being in this place where I was simply unplugged from it allowed my brain to do all of the like back end work that it needed to do and recharge me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fundamentally what we're talking about in taking a break. It's creating more space in your life for the things that need to be in your life in the moment. It's sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's creating more space for nothing new. It's
Yeah.
taking a step back to be able to rest. I mean, that's something I've really had to think about. I recently left my day job, not coaching job, and it's the first time in 20 years that I've had the freedom to create a schedule that works for me, and to go from the I need to work all the time to, oh, I have some space now to like I can sleep in if I want, or I can take a nap, or I can like take some rest, has just been so powerful and helpful for me to be able to kind of create the kind of life and business that I want to create. And so I think you hit the nail on the head by saying it's creating the space for new things, for different things, if anything at all.
John, we're almost out of time already
How
in
does
our
this
first
happen?
episode of the second season. It goes so fast. What can you leave our listeners with if they are hearing this and thinking, I need to take a break from this thing? Where should they start?
Can I give a quote that you found? Can I share that now?
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
So you found this really amazing quote that I think it really creates an opening for us to think about this. Anne Lamott says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And I think the ability to just sort of unplug or take a break, and I know this sounds really coachy. I'm trying not to sound coachy, but it creates so much space for possibility and something new. And I think when we're in it day and night and sort of rinse, repeat over and over again, we get caught up in the inertia of life and the sort of the routine. And taking a break is so powerful for being able to see things differently. And I think in life, with the pace of change and what's happening, being able to see things differently is so important. And so I don't see taking a break, or taking rest or stopping doing something as something that should only be thought about if you're burnout. I think as leaders, we should be constantly asking questions about what's serving us. What should I be focusing on? Where should I be putting my energy? Making the choice not to do something, or to put something on pause, or to end something completely.
If I were starting with something tactical about taking a break, I would think about all of the things that you're doing and which one will, as you said, John, create space for you. And that is a coachy term, but our brains get so full and our
Yeah.
lives get so full. We're doing so much all of the time. Like, what's the opportunity if I take a break from this thing? What does it offer me? What do I get to do instead? Or how do I get to be instead? Or what do I get to spend my time thinking about or doing or practicing if I take this break? And I think that's a really good place to start because it's your why. It's
Yeah.
like, how come I'm going to take this break? And being burnt out is a great place to start, right? There's always the like, what's wrong as a good place to start. What's wrong? I'm burnt out. Okay, cool. I'm going to take a break. What is going to be a good thing to take a break from?
Yeah.
And how is it going to serve me? How is it going to make me feel happier, better, less exhausted, and allow me time to just like have life in my life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. John, I could talk to you all day.
All day, every day, multiple times a day.
But we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with us for season 2 of I Could Talk to You All Day. We are so excited to be back, and we'll see you next time.
We're so grateful you decided to be with us during this episode. Subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues, and join us next time for more Real Talk.